Okay, now that you've rated your students, you may also want to go rate the things that are going on in your school. Kind of rate your club or your school and find out how many of these 9 points you actively have going on in your school now. Because I think they're very important. You don't have to do them all. It's just what I look for in my own schools. It's kind of the way I keep myself on track. These are kind of rambling points, but I think they'll give you a good view of where your school is now and maybe how to change it. Because a lot of times we know we need to make change, but we don't know exactly what areas to work on. So these 9 things are not in any certain order, but if I say something that you're doing, just give yourself a star. And if I say something that you think you might do, you're not sure, go ahead and give yourself a B because you're not sure. But if I say something you need to change, give yourself a C. So we can kind of rate ourselves A, B, C too. Okay, so the things you're already doing, just give yourself an A on it or a star. The things you're not sure about, give yourself a B. But the things you know you want to add and you want to look for in the future, go ahead and give yourself a C. The first thing is, I think has to go on is, we have to have black belt certified instruction as the chief instructor. In other words, the best possible instructor, which is probably you, the chief instructor, or maybe you, the owner, should be in most of the classes. I know that a lot of times we like to, as soon as possible, find an instructor so we don't have to be. But in reality, who can do the best job with our students? It's the certified instructor, the person most qualified. Now with that said, if you have multiple schools and you have an emergency situation like Grandmaster Lee did in Omaha, Nebraska, and Master Reed did, hire a young black belt like me. What's funny is they paid me $60 a week to teach all the classes. What they didn't know is I'd have paid them an extra $60 to let me. So there are some enthusiastic people out there, so don't lose track or lose focus. If you're planning to instruct, then of course it's time to let some other people help you teach. But if you're going to run one school or one club and you love teaching and that's why you got involved, go ahead and teach. The best person should teach. Now on the other hand, if you know you've been teaching a long time and you may have lost your edge or lost your ability to actually perform the techniques, you might want to get the help of a young black belt in your school that's highly enthusiastic, that teaches just like you. It's not necessary for you to always be the chief instructor once you've trained somebody else to be better than you. And of course, we'd like to replace ourselves with more qualified people than we are, but that brings some responsibilities with it. So anyway, the first thing is the best possible person who could teach teaches the classes. The best person doesn't sit in the office and watch somebody else teach the classes. So with that said, it should be black belt certified instruction. And my preference would be they have 3 to 5 years experience in the martial arts, but not necessarily. Remember, when you started, you probably had less than a year's experience. When I started teaching, I had 6 months or less experience. So don't let these hard and fast rules stop you from growth or stop some personal person from growth. One of your young students who really has a chance, don't let it stop them either because you have these arbitrary rules that you assign. You can't teach for 2 years or 3 years or some rule like that. So in other words, black belt instruction where it's possible. But in any case, the best possible person teaches all the classes. And what I really find is the most important class for you to teach is a basic class, white, orange, and yellow belts. A lot of times when we get to be senior students, we want to just teach the black belts because that's the most fun. But the person that needs our energy and our enthusiasm the most are white belts. And if you're really going to run a business and change lives, for sure the best instructor, the highest rank instructor, always teaches the low ranks because that's the real key to retention. They have to become martial artists. And truthfully, a 16, 17-year-old young instructor may not be able to get that enthusiasm over to them. So number one, black belt certified instruction where possible, but in any case, the best person is always on the floor. Number two is you must go ahead and decide, like I talked about last month, to have marketing and sales a part of your business. Whether you're a club at a YMCA, I know a few of you even teach out of your home, or whether you're a big school, you must go ahead and decide because every business even advertises, all of them. If you look at a lemonade sign, they even have a sign out front. You can go to a lemonade stand and there's a little girl there and she's got a sign out. She may even be yelling at you as you drive by. For sure, if you're in a YMCA and it's hard to find you, you should take something out of the kit and understand you're in the marketing and sales of martial arts lessons. The thrill of the whole thing is we get to teach. That's not the business. If you treat that part like the business, it'll be easy for you to get burned out. The business is the other things. marketing and sales. I think this kit will help you a lot, but that must be in place for you to be successful. Your commitment to do marketing and sales first, and then have the joy of teaching a lot of students sec. Number 3, you must have a method of accelerating the payments and the income into your school, because every single month, as we try to live abundantly, and that's really our calling, Grandmaster H. Lee didn't start the instructor program for you to live broke. If a doctor or a lawyer are considered professionals in your community, whatever they make, that's what the martial art instructor is entitled to make, because we put in more time, and in my opinion, we do much more good with the children and the adults of America than a doctor or a lawyer ever thought of doing. So you have to be able to compensate yourself and your staff as professionals. Find out what doctors and lawyers make in your community. You must make at least that much, because we really, our calling under Grandmaster H. Lee and now Grandmaster Soon Ho Lee was to live abundantly. You can't do it unless you find a way to accelerate the payments into your school and a way to collect the income. Now, I highly suggest that you don't try to collect monthly dues yourself. You need a third-party billing service that is very good at collecting high payment dues and also at posting and give you an accurate count of who's paying and who's not. The 2 I use are SCS in Little Rock and ASF out of Denver, Colorado. Either one of those can do a great job collecting your accounts, but you can't do it yourself. You can't let your accountant do it, and you certainly can't let your wife do it. Why? Because when people miss a payment, someone should take action on that, and it certainly shouldn't be the instructor. If you call them every time they're late on a payment, as somebody should, how likely are they to come back to class when they know that they owe you money? It's not very likely. So you don't want to be in the collection business. We want to be in the martial arts business, teaching martial arts. So let the professionals do the collection, and you go ahead and take care of the martial arts. So the first thing is you must have a billing company. Even when I was running small clubs of 20 or 30 students at a YMCA or a church, they signed membership agreements or /contracts, and I turned them over to a billing company. This is the best way to ensure that you're going to have enough income to take care of your family, but more importantly, as an owner, to take care of your instructors. So this is an obligation that you've accepted when you became an instructor. So accelerate the payments through a billing service. You must turn them over to them. You must use contracts, of course. Next is, don't be afraid to take payments up front, because this is the best way. If you've got a new car you need to buy, or if you've got expenses for your child's college, you must find a way to make this month the amount of income you need. The banks aren't out there giving broke people loans, you might have noticed. But our students, in many cases, for a discount or for some type of incentive, are more than willing to pay you the next 3 years' tuition because you've given them a discount. Please don't be afraid of that. And it's not all about money, because truthfully, what I find is the people that have paid in full are more likely to keep coming to class. You know why? They don't owe you any money. If that father loses his job and he's already paid all the tuition, it may be the only thing those children can afford to take. And if someone quits and they don't owe you any money, when they decide to come back, it's much easier to come back because they feel that they have 1 or 2 years of training coming. So really, for your students' sake, let's try to get them to pay in full. So accelerate the payment in some fashion. Put them on a contract and use a third-party billing. Those things are imperative. Of course, number 4 is if you could possibly have a lease kicker in your business, because truthfully, all business is designed just to break even. You need special things to step out of the box. A lease kicker might be you have free space at the YMCA. For small clubs, you don't have a lease, so the fact that you're paying very little or nothing at a YMCA or at a church, that may be a lease kicker. But for us who are renting commercial space, we really do need a lease kicker, maybe a lease rate better than every other martial arts school has. Maybe the leasehold improvements were paid for by a ballet school or a martial arts school there before. Something that sets us apart. I know now I'm spending between $75,000 and $100,000 for each new school branch I open. What if my lease kicker was I had somebody else pay all the leasehold improvements? So if you can get some type of a lease kicker. Now a lease kicker also may be, instead of going on a secondary street, somehow you find a great rate in the best possible location in the new demographic you're going to. Sometimes a secondary location's okay, but oftentimes the lease kicker is I have the best location in the city. Another one might be your landlord's willing to kick in $10 to $20 per square foot for your leasehold improvements, or somebody previously paid for them, like I said. But this is one thing that's a permanent benefit to your business. Your lease becomes a major part of the business plan. So if you can possibly get a lease kicker, at least go to 3 to 4 months, maybe even up to 6 months free lease to build your business in the beginning. But that's not really a kicker because it doesn't last forever. A lease kicker is something special about your lease that gives you an advantage for as long as you're in that location. So constantly look for a lease kicker, especially in your next location. Or even another idea is if you didn't spend much in leasehold improvements and your lease is up and you didn't spend much, sometimes a lease kicker is every 3 years I'm going to move 1 mile down the street. And my marketing plan is every 3 years I'll be in a brand new location because I'm not spending money. So maybe the lease kicker is I'm flexible. And I'm going to move 1 mile down the street, carry my old students with me, and gather a bunch of new students because I'm brand new and more convenient to somebody else. And then the next year you might move back. I don't really know what your lease kicker will be, but always look for one because it lasts for as long as you're in business. So always look for a lease kicker. Number 5, you've got to allocate one of two things, either time or money for the recruitment of new students. Now, if you're a small club, what you're going to take is some of the seminars, some of the guest passes, some of the flyers, and a small club with 20 or 30 students can easily double simply by doing small things every single month. Realize this, a little bit of something is a lot better than a whole lot of nothing. And a lot of you have kind of gotten the habit of just letting this class go, letting the students go without a real recruitment effort. But if you really want to succeed and be happy with your own performance, you must either spend the money or the time to recruit new students. And it has to be a major part of your daily activity. Now, what most people do is they'll either allocate 8 to 10% of the amount they're trying to make. In other words, if you want to do $10,000 a month in your school, you'd have to spend 8 to 10% of that. Of course, if you wanted to do $40,000, which seems like a big number, but many schools do $40,000 a month, you would spend 8 to 10% of your money, of your allocation, would be towards marketing and advertising. Now, if you didn't have the money, you didn't want to spend the money, you'd have to spend 10 to 25% of your time doing marketing and sales. This marketing and sales would be outside of your school, passing out flyers, doing VIPs, doing surveys, doing show and tells, going to the mall, doing a demonstration at the school. So many, many things, but I'm talking if you got a 40-hour week, at least 10 hours would probably be spent doing marketing. So you can spend money or time and it doesn't really matter, but you've got to spend one of them in order to really build a successful school with a constant inflow of new white belts. And that's our first goal. What we produce is white belts. Now, if your school's not producing white belts, you won't be as successful as the guy down the street because you won't have as many students, you won't create as many black belts because of that, and you certainly won't produce instructors who become leaders in society. So it all starts with white belts. And I want to labor on this fact a little bit because some of us become complacent. We've allowed our school to become a D school or even an E school, and we accept it. And there's no reason to ever to, not with this new package you're getting. So go ahead and decide to do a little bit of something every single day. But anywhere from, if you're not going to spend the money, 10 to 25% of your time should be spent on marketing and recruiting of new students. Number 6, this is really a key if you want to be successful in the martial arts. You have to continue training yourself and all of your staff. One of the common things is once somebody starts working for you, you don't teach them anymore, or you don't have a class for them because they're too busy working. First off, I don't hire anybody who doesn't take martial arts, even people who do my cleaning. Someone on their staff has to take martial arts with us. I want them to really be involved in the school. People working the front desk, they must take martial arts. It can't be a mother who doesn't train. So everybody must train, and they must train with you, the chief instructor. Now here's the deal, you must also continually educate yourself. You must train every day. Either there's a lot of ATA people around, you can train with them, you can go to camps, but every day in any case you should at least take the things that I take for granted. One of them is every single day I do the first form I ever learned, Heon 1. It was a white belt form in 1968 when I joined ATA. Next I do Chun Ji. It was the ones we changed to, I believe, in 1971. And I always do Song Am 1. Every single morning I walk through these. If I'm in a hotel, I walk through them there. If I'm in a beach somewhere, I do it on the beach. And also, if possible, I always hit the bag and try to stretch. So at least that small amount of training every day. Now, if you do that, your staff should also. Now, that covers the Taekwondo part, training every day. Many of us forget to continue to role play. That's what sparring is, it's role playing. Role play the business portion of our business. And a lot of you must dedicate some time to training your staff. If you're dissatisfied with their performance, it doesn't require pressure from you, it requires training from you. Like if someone lost in a match in sparring at a tournament, when they got back, you wouldn't yell at them. You'd say, let's see what we can do to fix it. Let's work on your kicks, let's work on your defense. You'd find something to work on. Somehow we didn't equate that to business in many cases. When someone doesn't do well when they're working with you in business, they need training. And if you're not doing as well as you would like, you need training. Training is what makes everything possible. So as you're training in Taekwondo, you must also train at least bi-weekly on the business that you're in, which is Sangam Taekwondo, the marketing and sales of martial arts lessons. So make sure ongoing training for as long as you're with us. Like Grandmaster Sun Ho says, there's always more to learn. So make sure you embrace that thought. Next, number 7. You must have a method to produce staff, not find staff. A lot of people would call headquarters and say, I don't have any staff. Well, it's not like an Easter egg hunt that if you look hard enough, you'll find one. I mean, truthfully, we have the obligation of producing staff. And I'll tell you something I learned from the first day that I ever joined ATA, before it was even called ATA, was some of the best clients might be your white, orange, and yellow belts. A lot of us get in the habit of looking at black belts for staff. What you really should find is the right attitude with a technically skilled person that's a white, orange, and yellow belt. First off, because there's more of them. Indicate to them and yourself that you're going to put them on an accelerated track. Make instructors. Don't sit back and wait for instructors. Make instructors. And how long does it really take to make a black belt with someone who's coming 4 or 5 days a week like I did? I was there more than the average black belt. I made black belt in 10 months, 15 days. I never was the best, but I certainly wasn't the worst. Same thing's true in your schools now. If you find talented people, accelerate their training and make staff. You won't find it. As the owner, this is something that you have to do all the time. My primary job is to find staff, find ways to motivate them, and of course find new locations. Even if you just have one location, your primary job is to find people who can be instructors and motivate them to be instructors. And where do you find them? White, orange, and yellow belts. Not in your black belt. You've already filtered out a lot of great people. So you must produce staff. You can't find them. And you can't go to a tournament and find somebody else's black belts unless someone sends somebody to you, which happens oftentimes, somebody who doesn't have a place. Number 8, you must have a desire for your people to have what you have. And that doesn't mean they get to open up a school down the street from you. That means if your personal goal is to make $50,000 a year, that they should have the opportunity working for you to do the same thing. If your goal is to make 100, you've got to find a way to make an opportunity for them. The last thing I would let them do is get discouraged because there is no opportunity and they're forced to either quit the ATA and open up down the street or drop out of martial arts totally, which is even worse, although it may not seem that. You must provide an opportunity. And your desire must be to have goals yourself for abundance, but also have goals for your staff abundantly and work on those constantly. You can't just continue to show up and teach class every day without a long-term vision of what my life's going to be like in 5 years. And you being able to sit down with those people. Of course, number 9, I believe that you have to dedicate yourself to something larger than you. If everything you think about every day is you, it's really going to be difficult for you to get satisfaction out of your life. And this thing I found out long ago. I went ahead and dedicated myself to Sangam Taekwondo so that I could work on something I wasn't being paid on. I could work on something that I just wanted to see succeed. The only thing it did was give me direction. So I think dedicate yourself either to your church or to your political affiliation. Dedicate your life to something bigger than yourself. And that's the 9 points, I think. If you'll go down and list yourself A, B, and C, find out if you're doing those things, and you can find out if you're on the right track or not for success. Of course, these are just my opinion, but it's what I look for in my own schools. It's what I try to stress with my own instructors. So that's it for the 9 steps. Rate yourself. How did you do? Or rate yourself, and you don't like the results, just throw it away. But either way, at least you'll know where you are right now, and you'll know how to make some changes.